Welcome to the Blanca Wellness Podcast. Thank you for being here. Take a breath, settle in, and let's talk today about a kind of pain that leaves no visible mark, and yet can stay with a person for years. There is a particular kind of hurt that does not fade the way physical pain fades. No bruise appears, no visible wound, nothing that anyone else can point to or verify. Yet the words arrive and something shifts. And hours later, sometimes days later, sometimes years later, you can still hear them. A partner in a moment of anger, a family member who knew exactly where to aim, a friend whose loyalty turned out to be conditional, a stranger who had no information about you and offered a verdict anyway. The words land. And then something happens that is worth examining carefully. Part of you begins to ask whether they are true. This is where the real damage tends to occur. Not in the moment the words are spoken. That is the first wound, and it is real, but it is brief. The sustained damage happens in what follows, the turning of the words over, the testing of them against your own memory and sense of yourself. The quiet wondering whether perhaps they contained something accurate that you had been failing to see. The words were spoken once. You repeat them to yourself for months. The Buddha was once approached by a man who began insulting him, loudly, with evident intention to wound. The Buddha listened until the man had finished. Then he asked a simple question. If someone offers you a gift and you refuse to accept it, who does the gift belong to? The man said, the person who offered it. The Buddha said, then I do not accept your anger. The exchange has been told for centuries because it names something genuinely difficult to practice. The recognition that words, however sharply aimed, only become yours if you receive them. The offering and the accepting are two separate acts. One belongs to the person speaking. The other belongs entirely to you. The Buddhist tradition made a careful observation about where cruel words tend to originate. People who are genuinely at peace, genuinely grounded in themselves, genuinely secure in their own worth, these people very rarely aim cruelty at others. They have no particular need to. The impulse to hurt with words tends to arise from a different place. From pain, looking for somewhere to land, from insecurity that makes another person's worth feel threatening, from anger that has nowhere productive to go and takes the nearest available exit. When someone speaks cruelly to you, they are telling you something about the condition they are currently in. They are telling you considerably less than they appear to believe about you. This is not a reason to dismiss the hurt or to perform an immunity you do not actually feel. Words can hurt, genuinely and deeply, and claiming otherwise is not strength, but a kind of denial that tends to cost more than it saves. The point is not that the words should not land. The point is what you do with them once they have. Whether you hold them up as mirrors, treating them as accurate reflections of something true about you that you are somehow failing to see, or whether you can recognize them for what they actually are. Someone else's experience of you, filtered through their own wounds and fears and limitations, offered not as accurate information, but as a form of release for something that belonged to them. The Taoists describe this through the quality of stillness that allows things to pass without being absorbed. Imagine standing beside a river watching branches float past. They appear, move through your field of vision, and continue downstream. You notice them, perhaps you observe them with some attention, but you do not step into the river and follow them. The observation and the absorption are different acts. The branch floated past. You did not become the branch. Much of what harmful words attempt to do is to persuade you to become the branch, to step into the current and let their momentum carry you downstream. The stillness being pointed toward is the capacity to observe without absorbing, to hear without internalizing, to let the current pass, while you remain on the bank. There is an important clarification worth making here, because kindness and the tolerance of mistreatment are often confused. Being kind does not mean accepting cruelty. Remaining compassionate does not mean providing unlimited access to your inner life to people who use that access badly. A garden can be beautiful and also fenced. A person can be warm and also clear about what they will and will not receive. These are not contradictions. In fact, genuine self-respect and genuine care for others tend to support each other rather than compete. The person who has established honest limits tends to be more genuinely generous within them, because they are giving freely rather than simply failing to stop the taking. Think about the voices you still carry, not the current voices, the recent ones, but the ones from further back. The critical assessment delivered years ago by someone whose opinion was weighted more heavily than it deserved. The verdict on your worth or your capability or your character that arrived in a moment of conflict and has somehow persisted, still audible in the quieter hours, still shaping decisions you make about what you should and should not attempt. Those voices are not you. They were never you. They were someone else's response to you, shaped by their own particular fears and limitations and the specific conditions of a specific moment, and they were never intended to be permanent residents. You gave them the residency, the rooms they currently occupy in your mind, are rooms you provided. The useful question is not whether the words were spoken. They were. But whether they are true. And when that question is asked with genuine honesty rather than with the anxious searching for confirmation of the worst, most of those old voices reveal themselves as what they always were. Other people's storms, not your climate. As we close today, I want to leave you with one question to carry with some gentleness. Whose voice are you still hearing? That was never really about you. An old partner, a parent, a teacher, a peer from a period of your life that is long past. Whose words are you still treating as a verdict on your worth? Because the words were spoken once. Everything that has happened since then has been you, repeating them. And the same capacity that kept them alive this long is the capacity that can, with some patience and some honest examination, choose to finally stop. They were never yours to keep. Thank you for being here with me today. Until next time, be well.